Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. It's great to see so many of you here. I'm Sarah Robson, and I'm the Customer Success Manager at Legend DigiTech, and I'll be your host for today's session. So, if some of you guys are new to Legend DigiTech, we're a digital marketing agency based in the UK, and we handle everything related to digital marketing in-house, including cybersecurity, SEO, AI automation, and much more. We've been in the business for about 12 years now, and we continue to be the number one choice for brands looking for upscale their businesses. And we're very excited to have Natalie Tran with us today as our special guest speaker. And Natalie brings over 10 years of experience, including her time as an executive director at Goldman Sachs. And she is the founder of Transition with Purpose as well, where she works closely with executives and professionals, coaches and consultants navigating career transitions and authority building, especially on LinkedIn. So today's webinar is about what has generally changed in 2025 and 2026, what still works, and how strong brands are building authority and trust without burning out or chasing trends. Um, as you all know, we are seeing more content, more AI tools, and more advice than ever. Yet many people feel brand growth is actually getting harder. Natalie, before we dive in, I'd love to start with a big picture question. From what you're seeing right now, why does brand growth felt harder in 2025, even for people who are doing all the right things?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I was very excited to present today because there are so many things around branding that is really sort of like people feel really attacked, almost, right? Around why is visibility so bad and all of that. So just my background, as Sarah mentioned, is I worked my way through accounting and ended up working in finance and a high finance role at Goldman Sachs, climbed the ladder all the way to executive director. So I kind of know how they all think. And so when I'm coaching them, and I want to preface with this because I even did two coaching sessions today, and the resistance is massive, right? People go, I don't want to put myself out there because it's like it's weird, it's not working, and all. And I know how they think because I was in the same boat. I found it really icky and horrible, right? So I'm gonna preface with that. And Sarah, today's session is a disclaimer as well. I am not a LinkedIn guru at all. So this is not a, like what little steps in algorithm. But I don't have any, insider knowledge. I don't not connected to any LinkedIn executives or anything like that. So today's purely just observations, what I've learned that works for executives when they are transitioning. I came from a massive pivot. So I had to go from someone being known as executive director in finance for Goldman Sachs to, oh, she's doing career coaching, right? And so I learned the hard way. And so I want to share some of the lessons today around that, especially if you're pivoting. So to answer your question, gosh, the noise is so crazy out there because if you think about it, there's AI content, outside noise. People are posting a lot. There's volumes at the moment. And it's really, really hard because if you think about it, you've also got people who are working on things and all of a sudden they go, it's not working. So I'm going to change again. And so I call that sort of niche hopping. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, right? And then you end up making it worse, especially right now as well, because LinkedIn is going, what is it that you do? One moment you're talking about this, and next moment you're doing that. So I think big picture wise, that's a massive problem. It doesn't matter if you're a founder, a CEO, or a brand, or someone, or even an agency, right? Because there's ickiness in how we present ourselves and articulate ourselves. So let's go back to the foundations of that. So I hope that helps a
Yeah,
little bit.
that
And then, yeah,
Yeah, that distinction between visibility and clarity is very powerful. And the insights that I learn from you every day are solid because I've
yeah,
been following you for a long time, been engaging with your content constantly every day. So the purpose of this webinar is exactly the same. that how
Mm.
you can be yourself, even if you're using AI, you're using AI platforms and you're kind of, saving a lot of time for yourself, but then bringing right value, the human connection where people connect on on genuine basis. So absolutely, that's really grounded. Over to you.
Yeah, yeah. And just to add another layer to that is that people it's not lack of trying, yeah, that they're working super hard and all of that. And I can vouch for the fact that when people are pivoting and changing, it actually um gets it attacks them more than you think. And especially right now, yes, I use AI, so I'm not saying that I don't, but there are ways that you can come out on top. And I sometimes talk about the foundational pillars. And I wish everyone went back to that. And there's so much content out there, guys. I think Ruben talks about, what is your mission? So you guys can go and look at some of the bigger creators that teach you how to do all of that. But for me, I help the executives think about their foundational pillars. And I go, what are the three things you want to be known for? So that you don't feel so niched in, right? Yes, we talk about niching and all that, but yeah, I work through that with them as well. And again, not to be perfect at all. And so I'll share like my pillars is transition strategy, transition work. The second pillar is mindset because a lot of mindset around career changes and building, getting rejections, all of that. And then the third pillar is like that can sometimes change depending on evolving, yeah. But usually your unfair advantage revolves around three pillars. So I wanted to share that as well with you. Yeah, so it's differentiating ourselves in a way that is really authentic. And it's not like one day I'm gonna say this and next day it's like I guess, one day you're saying you teach knitting, the next day you're teaching sewing, unless you're a craft shop, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So it's really important that your expertise. I remember coming from finance that my pillars back then, and this is where I bring out the stuff that I used to get worried about, right? As an executive director, I always think about what will people think of me when I say that? Because I want to be a thought leader. I want to be an expert in this and that, right? So that lesson I carried with me. And so when I'm coaching others now, I know the dilemma they're in. They're like, can you just press post for me? Because I just find it so icky, right? And I said,
Yeah.
you'll be fine. Um, I wanted to share that with the audience today.
So if everyone is now good and producing content, what actually differentiates a brand today?
So could you repeat that again, Sarah? So I missed the end of that.
Yeah. So if everyone is now good and producing
Mm,
content,
mm.
what actually differentiates a brand today?
Yeah, yeah. If you think about it, there is a lot of generic content out there, right? And I know even for myself, some days when I craft things, I go, really? So I always put this filter across, right? I always ask myself, is this piece of content a connection piece? They all start with C's, right? A connection piece, a credibility piece, is it a character piece, or is it a community piece? And yeah, so AI might have the skeleton for me. I might have drafted that and I go and I ask myself those four C's. And it's really important because that's clarity. And when you weave in your character or your point of view, all of a sudden it becomes not generic. Yeah. And
Ah,
I'll share a framework that will help others walk away from this for that. Another point about this slide is there's timeless principles for brand growth. It never changes. It's always clarity, positioning, know who you serve. You guys probably who are attending today know all of that. And I wanted to add in around human-centered messaging. I should have added this one in here, but I also talk about public building. When you build in public, right, that is actually a form of standing out because you're showing your vulnerability in a very relevant way. And that is human-centered messaging. So that's one of the ways that you can see a lot of founders do that. I'm not sure if you've seen it, where they go, oh man, I did this for 100 days and it flopped 60 days. Yeah. But that is building in public. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely right because that's a lot of change, but not everything is not change. So we just talked about what's still working. If there's one thing, one foundational thing brands still get wrong, what do you think is it?
I think it is not weaving it back to who you are. And hence I talk about those foundational pillars, and I talk about we are not meant to be everybody's cup of tea. I talk about that as well. So I think that's one area that people are not weaving in, and also I love expertise stuff, right? I actually love, like, of the 4 C's I shared with you: connection, credibility, character, and community. I love writing credibility posts because it's like, yeah, I know my stuff, and that whole executive mindset comes in. I can show you my authority and all of that. But people, when it's just generic expertise like that, people go, well, I could have gone to ChatGPT and found that, right? So how can I learn from you? I think that is the biggest question you have to ask yourself is, out of those 4 C's I shared before, how can I learn from Sarah? How can I learn from Natalie, right? So yeah, that's the biggest missing chunk is the emotion side of it as well. The emotive side of you sharing your stuff.
No, that's absolutely right. I agree completely
Mm,
on that with you.
yeah, yeah. Um, in terms of the clarity of positioning, I always say to people that when you want to cut through the noise, if you think about it, right, you cut through the noise by standing out. And how do you stand out? And there is a term we use called the unfair advantage. And I want people to work on that as well coming out of this. Do you know why you have an unfair advantage? And then there's a lot of big creators who talk about this as well. I'm trying to reference a few. There's another Goldman Sachs lady that creates a lot. So her name just escapes me. But she talks a lot about this as well. And you have to eliminate that ambiguity somehow, right? And so we do that by making sure that you have a mission. Go back to your mission again. From that mission, define, okay, maybe my mission is to grow my followers or grow my brand more followers, right? Why do you want to grow your followers? So that helps my business, more visibility, get more credibility, whatever it is, right? And why do you want that to help my business? And why do you want to help your business? Blah, 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 to get more for freedom. And so you keep working along that mission to make sure that it is super clear and keep reworking that. I think people don't go back to that enough. They hop on a trend. They go, oh, that's working. We need to personal brand. We need to do a brand, like, why? Right? And so a lot of
Absolutely,
executives,
yeah.
yeah, executives ask me all the time, why do I need to do that? Yeah, and I think when you coach executive, that's the question they ask, right? Why am I doing this again? Why am I posting? And yeah, it's then my role to help them sort of like work through the reason why, and going from a strategic leader to a strategic procurement leader helping SMEs or whatever it is, yeah? And so we
Yeah.
get really refined above the ambiguity side of things. I hope that helped. Yeah.
Absolutely, it does. You often say virality is rented, trust is built. What does that look like in practice for you?
Yeah. So I'm just trying to make sure that I'm on um this. Yeah, we skip this fine, but we'll come back to it. We'll come back to it because I
Yeah,
always talk about we'll come back to this in the hero story. I talk about trust because if you think about, and those that have followed me for a while, I must be a maths nerd or whatever, but I use a lot of Venn diagrams, and I talk about, again, 3 circles. If you think about the first circle, we talk about our, we talk about our our personal brand or our brand, what we believe, right? And we share that, our promises to the world. Now, think about how trust is built. What you promise to the world, I am a ex-finance executive who can coach others into pivoting, into branding, blah, 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 right? The promises I make. And then I go, well, how do I deliver that? Have I delivered it? The intersections between that, right? And then if you over deliver over and over and over and over again, the third circle is the audience. Who are they? And it's going to become very relevant as we talk about the LinkedIn changes. If you keep doing that, you're gonna the delivery of the promises to the audience, that becomes your reputation, right? And that is trust.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And I
Yeah.
see a lot of times that people skip this part just to get a sales done, just to get the onboarding done. But the relationship between your client and your services, I think th that builds a huge gap. And then the communication gets harder and harder, and it's hard to retain. It gets hard to kind of, get going with your services, and the trust and relationship kind of, vanishes away quickly. Rather than if you kind of, communicate on a trust level, transparency, and then you can kind of maintain it in the long
Mm,
term. So I
yeah,
think
that's
I
right.
see that's a huge challenge when it comes to business owners. I often kind of, interact with a lot of business owners, small business, mid-sized businesses, enterprises, and always kind of, learn these sort of things that is a big challenge for them. The communication needs to be very transparent in the first place. Your
Yeah.
messaging, your services, your offer, anything, either it's product based, service based, has to be very clear, top notch, on point, and can you stick to it as a promise? Like you
Yes.
make it with your friends, your family members.
Yeah.
It's just another human being you're dealing with. It's just a different sort of a relationship. So I completely agree with your point here.
Yeah, thank you. And I bring them back to, the reason why we're doing this, right? And yeah, and if you and that's why the saying comes that say that your reputation is destroyed in 2 seconds, but trust takes time because of that delivery on your promises to the right audience. And then what you just said, think about, do we under or over communicate your promises to your audience as well? Some people, a lot of executives under communicate. A lot of small businesses probably over communicate, right? So there's a bit of a funny balancing game, right? You hear a lot of promises, but you don't know if that's been delivered or not as well. And that relationship has to work together.
Oh,
Otherwise, yeah, you get in a
overpromised, underdelivered. Yeah, that comes to that point. So what do you
yeah,
see high trust brands doing differently with their messaging? And
yeah. I see a lot of them think about. Yes, expertise, but remember, bring in the 4 C's I talked about, bring in that connection. I don't want to sort of use emotion, but it is about connection at the end of the day, right? It is about if someone connects to your message, they are already buying in their head. If you do that, if you like, you see the trust graph go up, right? We all have an invisible trust graph, right? So I'm not saying
yeah,
this is it's not LinkedIn tracking our trust or anything, but I did this little, sort of like chart to show that people normally have already decided if you're the right coach for them.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah, and so it comes from that's what I resonate with the story she just told me, right? And so it's not just logic, right? They know you know your stuff, but they want to know, are you the right sort of mix, the chemistry? That's why some coaching calls or a lot of coaches do chemistry calls, right? Or discovery, calls because they want to make sure that it kind of gels. So important, right? Because there are so many providers out there. but that emotional stuff is really important. That whole, this is the right choice, and when you are, there's relief. I know when I have found the right coach as well. I have coaches too, right? I go, whew, she's gonna come in and help me, like, oh, and I know she's gonna, and so sometimes we have that feeling as well, that relief. Direction, again, you want someone to direct you somewhere, the expertise, all of that. And then there's validation. Others like me choose this. Because it's social media, right? I go, hey, if someone bought from Sarah and I really like Sarah and I love, your company and all of that, why? I wonder why. And so there's a bit of that emotional
Yeah.
game in your head. It's not really, a made up game in your head. Not no one. It's just not like a real thing happening in real. But it's what happens. And a lot of us feel overwhelmed, myself included. When I first came out, to find my first coach, I went through a lot of overwhelm to find that right person. So I hope that helps, right? So there is a bit of that human-centered messaging to help people, that emotion to bring it in for people. Imagine if
Yeah.
I gave you tips on interviews all day and you go, great, Natalie, I can also, these days find a GPT that does that for me. Okay, but why would I listen to you? Yeah.
Absolutely. That's on point. So just let's get a bit practical, Natalie, here. You work with a few core frameworks. Can you walk us through the first one?
Yeah, absolutely. My first one, and this is not new. That nothing. The funny thing is, a lot of the stuff that we work with to get clarity and get our branding right. I One of the first frameworks I talk about is awareness. Know yourself, and make sure that your frame know that the hero story or the origin story still works. That is a framework. And I have a whole, like, two Notion pages on my own story. I've rewritten it many, many times, right? And it's a framework, okay? And so people know you're good, but they can't see the journey. We talk about the emotion side of things, right? And they want to buy belief, right? I don't know whether the last time you found a coach for yourself, whether it's fitness or whatever, right? They want to buy that belief, don't they? Like, not just buy the that I've got a chartered accounting degree, whatever, so then I should be able to help finance people, right?
Yeah.
It's like, great, good for you, but I also talk about this to my clients. There's a feature and a benefit, and the hero story kind of brings that in a little bit as well. What is the benefit of working with someone who's been through this, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. It's
yeah,
sort of like you're poking the bear. You're actually there to solve a problem rather than, you're just verbally there to help. And there's
yeah,
just talks and there's no real action. So when you talk about hero story, most creators are good at telling stories, but you say that they don't lead anywhere. What's
yeah,
missing? What do you think
yeah.
about that?
Yeah. I'll share the next slide soon. But just to when I say hero story, I don't mean like you're gonna write it's just one story that ties everyone to what you do. So your origin story is made up of a lot of mini stories, right? So that's what the first thing I want to say as well. And then we want to tie back what you do to those mini stories. And we do it not, have you seen my pet hate is going on Instagram, and I see hype, right? The hype, hype content when they're just hyping you up and go, oh, I've been through this, and it's like really full on, but I just can't see where it's leading, right? So you got to make sure that your origin story is able to tie things back. And maybe I'll share this slide first. You can see here,
Yeah.
right? That yes, we write it, and we start with a lot of creators tell amazing stories actually. But you got to make sure that your origin story is leading people somewhere for what you are doing in the world, right? In the direction we talked about, and it builds context. And I'll give an example. It's much easier to understand than seeing these 8 steps, right? It shows how your authority was earned, your experience connects you to the problem you solve. And I think number 6 is where people miss the point a little bit, right? And they think it's one giant story, but it's sometimes it's mini stories, right?
Yeah.
And trust is established before you sell, right? That's why I was saying people are already buying before that stripe, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
becomes
Yeah.
active, right? And you become, what I call the obvious choice. I'll give you an example. When I talk about rejection, when I see my executives go through applications or whatever and they have rejection, right? There is a mini story that I tell. And they'll come to me and they go, oh, you know what? I did whatever X many amount of applications, got rejected. And one of my story is I was being wooed by a giant, recruiter to go overseas to work in one of my experiences. And this story always gets everyone, and you can see how I apply it. And a whole year, a whole making. So I, rented out sold my house, like gave a lot of things away. Got my husband to quit his job as well. We're both like about to go. On the way to the airport, I received a phone call, and I was so efficient. I was going to hand my car over at the airport to the guy buying it. That's how efficient, like high performer, like we can do all of this, right? And on the way to the airport, I received a phone call. And in 15 seconds, I got rejected. And they said, sorry, don't board that plane. Just rip up your tickets. Your contract has been rescinded. Right. And I go, what? Like, what on earth is happening? And the first thing I did, I called that guy and said, you don't need my car. That's the only thing I own at the moment. And I need my car. So that was the biggest rejection that I ever received, right? And
Yeah.
so I built that. And you see me talk about it over and over and over again in some of my posts in
Yeah, I
different
did.
ways. Yeah. And I talk about how it's okay. You're not going to die from it, right? But you got to put yourself out there because having traveled that and get the rejection is better than not trying at all, right? And so
Absolutely.
that's what I mean by your mini stories within your big story. So my big story is I transitioned, from the big role, and I have a massive career change, and I now run a consultancy and all of that, and also work with big contracts and big organizations as well, to help some of the branding work and all of that. But when I share those mini stories, immediately people they buy, they go, oh my God, like I get it. I know you get it as well. So I wanted to share that story because it was horrendous, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I could probably write a whole book on it actually, because what happened afterwards and how I bounced back and the resilience, another topic of mine I talk a lot about because of that experience, right? So just going back to this again, we then make sure that we update, and I'm very specific here, so take a screenshot or whatever people like on here. Go and write your story, write your origin story, and go and update. Once you've done that and happy with it, go and update your banner, headline, about, and weave in bits and pieces into there, right? Create your content based on that, and then connect in a human way with real messages. So then if someone says, I've been rejected 100 times in a DM, I'm talking, I say, I get it, and just talk like in a human way, bring in what you've experienced because people know when it's the truth. You don't have to be, it doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be true, and how you've become the person that is now offering that support and expertise. So that's a good story. Okay, so these mini stories will help you, and you keep doing that. Use your story-based language in your offers, in your offer document, in your sales page, and do it all of that. Mine's not perfect. It will never be perfect. No one's is ever perfect. So you just keep evolving it and working it for the offers that you are doing as well, and keep it very, because in that way you become what I call uncopyable. That's a term that I love, that you can't be copied, right?
Yeah. No
Yeah,
matter how much anybody tries to do
they
that, you
can't.
can't do that. And
Correct.
the most amazing stuff I've learned on all of these social platforms where we are doing heavy dose marketing and stuff is that people are sharing their mini stories that are really genuine, that connect on the very highest and deepest level
Yeah,
if you talk about a human being. So
yeah,
I scroll past all the time on LinkedIn, and then I stop these posts are actually scroll stopping for me because I genuinely connect because that has happened with me in the past, maybe several times, multiple times, quite often, maybe. But then it really connects, and then I kind of learned something out of that post because that's happened to a fellow creator, a marketer, a person who's in the same industry as I am, or maybe in the same profession. So it
Yeah.
really helps you. Not only that, it kind of pushes you to the core, kind of motivates you to the highest level that if someone has failed like 10 times, they've never given up. And that's
Yeah.
how you get the power of not giving up all the time.
Yeah.
You get the energy, right energy, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah. And as number four says, you just, yeah, thanks for that, Sarah. It really makes sense. And I learned so much from my fellow creators and other businesses because, and say the same core message in multiple ways, right? So instead of me saying, here's 5 tips to get more resilient,
Yeah.
I sometimes start my post by saying, what do you do when you're sleeping on a blow up mattress in the middle of, like a financial recession, Like you've
Yeah.
gone from having a home to like, what do I do right now? My contract is gone. How do I bounce back, right? And so when you weave in those stories, when you write your story well and you weave all that into your post, and my post is actually about how to help people get more resilient. But you weave in your story that way, and you catch people's eyes. And they go, oh, and they won't forget it too. Like they won't go, oh, I don't know what 5 tips she talked about, but I remember, she went through a bit, and she probably can offer a bit of support for me. Yeah, and so repetitions, it creates familiarity and safety. I want my clients to always feel safe with me as well. Like trust is built through true things and through alignment. I talk about that word a lot, even though I also say to people, don't use words that are too generic, but it is alignment. Yeah, so that's how the 6 steps work, right? The main thing is start off with writing, right? Writing that. One other thing, oh yeah, I think I mentioned to Sarah a really interesting point as well is with people may also know Vincent van Gogh and his famous paintings that are worth billions of dollars now, right?
Yeah.
No one knew, but his sister, I think her name's Johanna, but called Jo. She's sister-in-law, sorry. So when Theo and I know this because the exhibition came around, and I always read things with all the messaging and branding in mind, right? And it said that like when after he passed away, everything was worth nothing. She went out and she took the letters that Vincent wrote to her husband Theo, right? And when she connected those stories in those letters to the art, bang, all of a sudden, the art has context and meaning. So, for example, that starry night, those swirly stuff, that was
Yeah.
him in his hospital when he was institutionalized after, his ear cutting incident, all of that. And all of a sudden, people go, "Oh my God, I want to learn more. Why did he do this art and all of that, right?" So that is another. So if you read, his origin or hero story, it is incredible, right? Because
Yes.
those letters that he wrote, and that's how he it actually became like his sister made it, like monetized it. But before that, and the sunflower, why did he draw the sunflower? There was a story behind it. He wrote that. Anyway, I digress a bit, but I thought that's a good way to remember that everything is kind of worthless until you put a story behind it. Yeah. um
Yeah, the combination is powerful itself.
yeah.
So yeah, it
Yeah.
absolutely resonates. So I know that you've mentioned semantic search and writing the way clients actually speak. Can
Yeah.
you kind of shed some more light and explain that
Yeah.
in more
Yeah.
detail?
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's a couple of new changes, you might have experienced, and I'll go back a slight point before I get onto there. People have noticed about 6 months ago, reach dropped, yeah. And there's a couple of reasons behind that because and people that might know what engagement pods are, right? So
I was
it's
like, what, gosh, what
yeah,
happened? Like, what,
yeah.
Am
People
I
could
doing
game it.
something wrong?
Yeah,
It felt like that. It felt like constant, like kind of, it's stuck in
yeah,
my brain like all the time that what's
yeah.
happening. I used to get a lot of engagement and reach, but suddenly it's kind of looks like a heartbreak.
Yeah, yeah, and people could game it a bit, right? So it's likes, comments, reposts, right? Likes, and they would you'll leave the comments out, but likes and reposts, you could game it, and it could be a one-liner comment, and so you just boost.
Yeah,
And so if you're connected with someone, you can game a little bit. So the new algo, and we'll call it LLM, the large, AI, right? It's not just one
absolutely. Yeah.
algorithm; it's many algorithms, right? But yeah, let's call it that. And so yeah, there was trust loss, and so LinkedIn decided to sort of build it again back to trust again, right? They want to know what happens when someone sees your post. Do they save it? Do they go to your profile? Do they DM you and all of that? Okay, so with that in mind, trust again, the semantic indexing is about how it can help you become discoverable. You might have heard that hashtags are dead, yeah, as well. And even Instas came out and said, well, you know what, we don't even need LinkedIn. We don't even need hashtags to do anything like that. So it's meant to help you, but there's context behind words. There's keywords, amazing, but they scan for words and help you become searchable. I'll give you a career transition example, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. So if I post why I stay stuck in a career I'd outgrown for years and what finally helped me move on, and someone searches that, right? Your post may appear, right? And not because of one keyword or thing in there, but the platform understands the intent behind the language,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the idea is to now write the way your ideal clients would think and speak, and not just, think about keywords all the time. Okay. And so we are trying to create what we call a, a bit of a signal, a semantic signal, right? So you can see here as well some other examples. The algorithm also looks for content about feeling stuck, unfulfilled. So what I'm saying is, one of the reasons why the reach has dropped. Remember the platform, and maybe I'll mention this as well. It's really important. The platform, LinkedIn has a mission of bringing economic opportunity to all its members. And there are three things that helps, right? That they would increase the reach for these three things: valuable insights, which most of us create for. They also look at job opportunities, right? Like if you're sharing a job opportunity, they would like give you reach, and career updates, right? And so one of the first things I do to my executives who are transitioning, I go, we're going to write a really good exit post. Let's not say I've left so and so and go silent. We are going to write a really good exit post and start to bring in semantic indexing, what areas you're in, a bit of a gratitude post. These are the stuff that my highlights during that tenure was this, blah, 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 right? And so you can see how semantic indexing will start to fill your profile with the right words, yeah, and the context of what this person does. And if you're in those three valuable insight, career updates, your that first post for executives who don't even post at all, that update would probably go, the term viral, or it will have great reach, right? Or great impressions, or whatever, because LinkedIn will naturally do that as well. That's one of the things. And so, and then apart from building the semantic words around that. Okay, so yeah, for me, I consistently talk about career transition, career pivots, executive digital presence, and all of that. So LinkedIn kind of learns, oh, this person operates in the career transition or executive branding space, even if I don't use the exact same keyword every time. And my hero story and my origin story also has a lot of what I talk about, and I don't necessarily have to use one particular keyword, if that helps.
Absolutely, that's grounded. It actually resonates so much because a lot of times I have this constant debate with the clients, on and off, that they want to put hashtags, but I tell them otherwise because of the changes that algorithms are kind of used to of getting. month on month. There are like different strategies, there are different ways that you kind of deliver and create the content and then publish it. So it's hard to make people understand about the algorithm and the technical aspect attached to it, but then it it completely resonates with what you just said. And I know that there's a lot of confusion around AI and LinkedIn. Do you think LinkedIn is anti-AI?
Um, it's not anti-AI. It is it doesn't like, and they call it, they have all these things, oh, it goes against community guidelines, all of that, right? Because it's saying that again, they don't want you to game the remember, it's meant to be a platform where it provides economic opportunities to everyone, right? And so it's saying, yeah, it's okay, but if it considers it like you're trying to hack and game it and things like that, they consider it against community guideline, right? They keep it very vague, inappropriate use, whatever you want to call it. Um, but if you are, if, just say you're doing a great carousel and you go, this is how you would use AI to create that, and you're transparent about it, then it's really good because they go, okay, great, you've declared you've used AI to create this image, to do this carousel, and it only did it in 10 minutes and all of that. So transparent use is all good. And I think also a lot of people, even 2 years ago, people have Chrome extensions everywhere, even myself, right? They have all these third-party Chrome extensions to help people do this and that, right? I don't think LinkedIn likes that. So again,
Yeah.
just be careful around all of that because it may feel like that you're trying to game things, and they don't like that, right? And so if your account gets restricted, they may not return it. Who knows,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It has happened with a lot of people because they've been misusing LinkedIn with too
Yeah.
many tools and stuff, and then their accounts got blocked and they felt stuck
Yeah.
because they had good following and stuff. So I know LinkedIn has their own standards and the way it works. So obviously we need to respect the fact as well. And keeping your content authentic, credible, and transparent is very important because it's going to give out the value that people are there for. So it
Yeah.
absolutely connects well. And you've described LinkedIn profiles as having a trust here. What does that mean?
Yeah, so if you think about it, we've been talking about trust the whole session, right?
Yeah.
So again, it is not just about just getting a pretty profile up, right? There should be activity. It's a social media platform. There should be activity behind it, and they don't want like a burst of activity. You disappear, come back, right? And so the trust, it's not just the posting. There's commenting. There's DMs. There is people visiting your profiles. There's connection requests. So all of these activities will give LinkedIn an idea around how trustworthy you are, right? And so you probably have a trust score around that. Are you someone that on your activity every day is you've got 50 cold pictures that go out that are exactly the same. Like you've just like, like sent 50 messages that are exactly the same. No, not even an edit in hello to a name even. Like I've seen them, right? Where they go, hey, this is what I do, blah, 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 right? And so that was considered spammy and will lower your trust, right? And also, if you are going to do messaging, make sure that every message is a little bit different, right? Because again, that's a bit of trust, right? To show that there's activity that is a little bit different from each other. It's not just you using bots or whatever to bombard everyone. And yeah, mass outreach, all of this, copy paste, all of that will not go well. And also comment quality. I think we talked about, or you mentioned authenticity before, authentic content. Well, comment quality is part of your authentic content, right? If you are commenting badly or using AI in a really weird way that makes absolutely no sense that people can tell, right? Again, that is not genuine, right? And so if they probably have, I mean, we would never know how they do it, but there is some form of that. And I think that will affect your reach and distribution. Like I said, I'm not a LinkedIn guru. I'm just seeing that. Some of my clients, who are, sort of taking a few shortcuts at the start, and I go, you know what, let's do it properly because you will see your reach and distribution starts to be impacted. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. The 100% copy-paste AI comments are recognized heavily over LinkedIn. I've been a witness of it too, because I engage, I connect with a lot of like posts with a lot of creators that are like, uh, I consider them as mentors as well. They've been in the business over LinkedIn for too many years now, so I
Mm.
consider them as mentors. So obviously, I do see a lot of posts and comments like that that are fully AI. And then you can, within a kind of click, you get to know that these are not genuine because that's not giving the value. And I think LinkedIn is basically all about giving value out there.
Yeah, remember
No fluff.
yeah, if you go back to those three areas, it's about
Yes.
that insightful value and all of that, right? Because of its mission, because it's a business, right? LinkedIn's a business that has like its revenue per whatever is ridiculous. It's doing well. Um, so with the and I think one of the reason why reach drop as well was it was the paid ads part, but we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Again, that is like if your brand is not working, do not, go and spend thousands on ads. That's going to really you kind of come back and feel totally depressed afterwards on that. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
If when we're talking about LinkedIn, what's coming next on LinkedIn that people should be paying attention to in 2026?
Yeah. As mentioned, it's LLM or it's AI is getting smarter. And so people's feed will become a bit more personalized, right? Remember how I said to you, I think one of the reasons why reach dropped was because we went from, and I'll give an example. So, say I'm a transition coach
Yeah.
who work with finance executives. Okay, say those high finance executives. So before that, whoever I connected with in the finance world, all of my stuff, my reach would go to all of them, right? But now this new AI might be saying, you know what, you're a career coach. I'm kind of going to put you in that career coachy kind of space, yeah.
Yeah.
And so now we have to realign our connections and all that a little bit, but not even that. But think about it as well, I call it the non connection reach as well now because of this your reach. They want the feed to be amazing, and they want the feed to be amazing so people stay on the platform, right? And so they don't want people to leave the platform. They want people to stay scrolling because their feed is good and they're not seeing, but there might be a mismatch because now I might be seeing a lot of other career coaches work and they might see mine, but they couldn't care less about finance stuff. You know what I mean? Like, or not all coaches may focus on, say, finance executives or whatever, if you see what I mean, right? So there's that's coming. So it'll be really interesting to see how that becomes more personalized in 2026 or this year, or it's this year now, isn't it? Yeah, and just using AI very carefully, as I mentioned. Think about your trust score. Think about so commenting. Think about your activities every day. Do you post? Do you comment? Do you connect? Do you DM? So all of that has to come together, not just one thing, right? And think about your remember we talked about the behaviors, so it'll probably monitor that a little bit. Video is a big topic, we won't have time to talk about it, but I think video will have a bit of a comeback in some way. Um, it 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 was on the explore page 2 years ago, I think now, isn't it? Almost, I can't remember now, but there was a point where it was on the explore page. And remember, every region is different as well,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
it'll
that
be interesting.
100%.
Yeah, and there's a point where that 916 sort of like version of the video was working and stuff, and even I was creating talking heads that way. Now I feel like video's gone horizontal a little bit. It's starting to feel like, and make sure your videos have captions and you have a lot of context. Again,
Yeah.
think about semantic indexing, yeah?
Yes,
You need a
absolutely.
good caption, not just the video. And then the last thing is, and this could There's a couple. I was going to call it something else as well. I think there is the rise of the executive creator as well, where they're super, like dialed into the expertise, and it's going to be interesting to see how that comes about, and maybe some creator mode stuff happening. I don't know, turning into like an educator mode. I don't know. Like this could be something that your profiles could be a little bit more exciting in terms of you can really show you. I know a lot of executives are hanging out for that. Sort of seeing these types. You might have heard of Ray Dalio. He's one of the biggest creators in the Wall Street side of things and all of that. And like his stuff is full of expertise, like very full on niche expertise, right? And maybe
Absolutely.
some of the executive create the rise of the executive creator could be the next thing. I don't know. Again, it's a prediction, right? It's all a prediction, but it seems like if you have authority and clarity, you can do a few things in there. And that's why I also encourage executives to go on podcasts and things like that, because again, it builds credibility, it builds the semantic indexing, all of that in your profile.
Absolutely, it does. It does. So before we move into Q&A, Natalie, any final thoughts you'd like to leave everyone with?
My final thought is to keep going. Don't quit too soon. There are days when everyone, right? And you would know this as well. I know that you're a creator too, and you post as well. There are days when you go, oh my God, all this work for what, right? And you question everything you do, and it's very normal. And on those days where it's a little bit messy and yucky and wobbly, to really just yeah, get that mindset back that, you know what, um, it will work. It just takes a little bit of time, right? That building trust, building reputation, it takes time. Remember our three circles, promises we make, our delivery to our audience. Let that marinate for a little while and you will start to see it work.
Perfect. Thank you, Natalie. That was very insightful, very helpful. I've just got a few questions from audience, and I'd like you to answer them. Would that be okay? They're just few, so we're
Yeah,
gonna quickly kind
absolutely.
of do a Q&A, so we get answers from you for our participants. So I'm just gonna bring up the first question for you here is in your framework, at which stage do you see brands drop off the most, building context, authority, or trust?
I think people start to they drop off when it starts to feel like it's not resonating, right? So I might think I think it's the context. I think people can start dropping off on that point. Is that the question? Could you read that again? I just make sure I answered it well. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
in the branding?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, perfect. In your framework, at which stage do you see brands drop off the most, building context, authority, or trust?
I think it even starts at the context. I think once authority hits, people they start to gain what I call conviction in what they're about. That's why when you know your pillars well and you know your three foundational pillars and all that, the authority part, I find a lot of experts can share a lot. But I find the context like what because context has a lot of things in it, right? It's not just like why am I doing this as well and who am I trying to help? And so I think the start, I think a lot of people struggle at the start, to be honest. If you get it right and it starts to hum, I call it when it starts to hum, it gets a little bit easier. And then you then finesse it. I think the later parts you once you see it working and you finesse, I think having a coach is great. I help a lot of people with those stages to really finesse the that end part. I hope that helps. But
Yeah.
this would be just my experience with my typical clients as well.
No, absolutely makes sense, and hope the participant got the answer to the question. So I'm gonna hop on to the next question. With AI generated content everywhere, what signals still differentiate a real brand from noise in the eyes of customers?
Yeah, this is that whole point in our session today, isn't it? Like really, and I always say go back to your mission because your mission gives you that clarity. and gives you that clarity as to why you are creating and sharing whatever it is that you are doing with the rest of the world, right? And so when you hear lots of AI stuff, it's same, or you might even call it AI, a bit sloppy, it sounds very sloppy. If you can use your origin story, right, really well, and like I said, know all your mini stories. So like, if you were, and I always ask this question, if you were asked in a TED talk, right, and someone asks, what's made you really proud of the professional or leader or whatever you are today? Do you know the answer to that? Because that is, in essence, your thing.
Yeah.
And that is not noise, right? That is like
Yeah.
they remember you for that. Okay, and if you ask a lot of people around me as a coach, they'll say Natalie always talks about um, transitioning at any age. Don't be afraid because and I've done it at many points as well in my journey. I have a mini story around having children and what that means to be an executive at Goldman Sachs, right? What that meant to climb the ladder. I've got all these stories, and I think when you have that in an AI world, no one can copy you. I think we said that before, right? If you can weave in
Yeah.
some of those lived experience, even though people's experience it's not exactly the same as yours, but they can see themselves in it. Other mums, other women go, oh my God, that happened to me as well. Like I could have just given birth and like a month later and still have to think about, work and things or whatever it is, right? And so there'll be some stories that will help you create above the noise, I guess, right?
Yeah, that was very helpful. I completely agree with your point there. I've got a third question here. For service-based brands, how can storytelling be used without being salesy or generic?
Or generic, yeah. Really good question. I think and no shade to all the all the gurus and all that out there, right? But do you remember there was a point in time where everything was templated, right? And I've
Yeah.
I've hopped into many programs and I've been given lots of, and I was never comfortable because I don't know, there's something about me going, I'm gonna plug that into a template exactly like that, and I'm just gonna pull it out, right? I think it's and then you end it with a salesy thing. Like there's a formula, sort of, right? I don't think at the moment there is a black and white. Even when people talk about funnels, yeah, you should have
Yes.
X% in the top of a tofu or X%. I think it's different for everyone. I don't think there is a black and white answer for each. Yeah, repeat that question. I just want, I get off track sometime. I get my ADHD gets to me sometime and I go everywhere. A little
Yeah,
bit
that's
again.
okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah,
It's for service-based brands,
yeah,
how can storytelling be used without sounding salesy
yeah.
or generic?
Yeah. So again, bring in the reason why you are serving that audience. And again, those mini stories, I don't have it ready here, but like I have like a couple of Notion pages where I rewrite all my stories and just make sure that as a service, why am I coaching? Right? I ask myself
Yeah.
that all the time. Why do I want to help? And it comes back to the fact that I found it extremely hard when I first pivoted and transitioned. And I took way too long to find a coach, try and figure out myself. And I just went into this crazy 1 year activity where I'm like spinning 8 plates and they're all dropped to the ground. Right. And when you're a service-based business, people come to you to help them, them start 2 plates spinning. And once the
Yes.
2 plates are spinning, you can, as a service provider, you spin the next one and the next one, right? And don't do what I did. Went out with 8 plates, starting it, and they all just come crashing down, and you go, why didn't it work? Right? So I think storytelling each plate. Don't offer too much at the start as well, right? If you're a new service provider, because again, make sure your story is working, it resonates. So for me, I always make sure that I help people transition really smoothly Doesn't matter if they're coming out of a big title like me, a big role, or whether they're coming out of burnout, which I've experienced as well. Again, I bring in all those reference storytelling, right? Burnout on Wall Street, on Goldman Sachs, can look like I don't want to get out of bed. I can't get out of bed. It was that bad, right?
Yeah,
When I say burnout, I don't mean like, and I have that kind of sort of a bit of ADHD, that brain where I'm like over, like completely crazy most days, and that energy and all of that. And I'm normally this energetic as well. So like burnout, when I experienced it, was I could not get out of bed. I couldn't leave the house. It was that bad. And I have a mini story for that too, right? Sometimes when I talk about, yeah. So you, as a service provider, people want, again, to tune in to a bit of why you do what you do and why you want to help. I have coaches that want to help people get out of burnout. And I go, tell me a story. Yeah. Instead of
Uh,
going, hey, I went to burnout school. Right.
yeah,
No one's gonna buy from a service that, hey, I went, no, I'm not saying don't get accredited, because I did a lot of accreditations as well for coaching. But what I'm saying, it's just really go back to why you do what you do, and why you, who your audience is, and why you want to deliver to that audience. It's very
absolutely.
powerful.
That's very helpful. Um, Natalie, thank you so much for joining us today, and sharing these incredible insights. I know it's given everyone a lot to reflect on. And thank you to everyone who joined us live today. And we really appreciate you all taking time here. And if you've taken away even one idea you can apply moving forward, then this session has done its job. And obviously, Natalie, having you today was a great pleasure, because I personally have known you for a long time now. And I know the sort of insights you bring for executive professional coaches and consultants who might be solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and people like that who got small businesses, mid-sized businesses, giving direction to all these people is really, really helpful. And the way, kind of you transition them into what they want to be is absolutely amazing, because I've read a lot of your stories out there. So I really love your content, the way you present, the way you add value to it. And also, um, the time that you put in to give the stories the life it kind of deserves. It's very meaningful, and that's how we grow, by learning each other's content, the way you're differentiating from that noise. I call it fluff,
Yeah.
just no
Yeah,
fluff,
it
right?
is. It is fluff. Yeah, it is. And that's why I also discourage people from, using terms that AI uses a lot, right? Like they,
Yeah,
get more confident. I call it hype as well. Hype, let me make you more confident, right? And those kind of stuff. It doesn't have signals around authority, we talked about before, and the context why you want to help people get more confident, right? So, but thank you so much for having me. Like I really value, what you do as well, and what your whole team does. And I really loved our collaboration. When you asked me, I was like really humbled and really loved sharing all of this. And that's another thing that I know that when you love doing this stuff, people can feel it and see it, and so the energy and all of that will come through, right? And you can't fake that. And that's another part of authenticity, is that you want to, and for me, my mission is to help like 1 million people work in alignment. Like it's a big goal. I've done,
yeah,
I think last year, I think I've done like 9,000, like I think I try and keep tab of it, like 9,000 sessions or professionals or whatever, so I still have a long way to go, but that's okay. That's my mission, is I know it gave me joy. And so I want to make sure that I can impart that in any way at all to those out there working, because I know that it's made me a much happier person.
yeah,
And yeah, and I don't dismiss any of my finance stuff. I still love it, because a lot of that stuff I bring in. I mean, You give me a spreadsheet and I will tell you, or even tell me your investment ideas and I will tell you. Um, and that's the unfair advantage is that I bring my finance stuff into my coaching as well. So, yeah,
That's
thank you
amazing.
again for having me. And if you guys are using your stories and all that, in your posts, in the comments, or just give me a DM and let me know that you've done something, and I'll have a look as well. I'd love to know.
I would love to do that. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, guys, and thank you so much, Natalie, for today. We'll catch up with you in the coming times over on LinkedIn,
yeah.
the way we do. So thank you so much, everyone. Hope you have a lovely day.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye for now.